Games. It's a wonderful thing. PlayStation Vita. Even better. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Kyle Snow.
Well, who the fuck are you, though?
Everyone knows who I am already.
Okay, Chris Miller. Hey, everybody. I'm Kyle Snow.
No one needs the introduction of me. Everyone knows who I am. I am Vampiro.
A little bit vain there, Chris. Yeah, and it was going to be just Chris and I because Ryan was in a really unfortunate accident that involved a very, 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 very big injury. But he's managed to join us fresh from the hospital, all hopped on painkillers with a weird thing on his head. Here's Mr. Ryan Power.
Hi. I'm not on painkillers. I'm fine.
He just has a gigantically hilarious
comment. Shout out to our Dungeon Master and our special guest of Pajodcast, who I will leave nameless. Let's just say the mysterious stranger.
Pajodcast. That's the name that we use for this person, right? Because that's
yes, the mysterious stranger, otherwise known as Pajodcast. Essentially, our conscience. That's what Pajodcast actually represents.
No, Pajodcast. I would just say.
So in a way, anyway, the shout out to said conscience for providing me with this new headset. Thank you very much, because my listeners will know that my last headset was shit. So
we're continuing our E3 coverage that we started.
Starting to go, yeah.
With Electronic Arts. We did that last time. So now we're moving on to Sony. Sony has
we're not covering
great
these
new
in order
console
right now, but we are covering them.
New console called the PlayStation 4X. It's debuting.
That would be a terrible name.
That'd be the worst name ever.
It'd probably be a better name than the other one, but we'll obviously get to that in another stream.
You just said PlayStation 4X.
Yeah, we're gonna talk Sony. I know. Yeah, 4X.
Sony. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say all of us at this point in the console generation are Sony users, correct?
Yes.
So both of you have
PS4. Watch together.
I know, but for our audience, let's make sure we're defining the narrative here. So I'd say that all of us probably have the most to be taken out of a Sony conference, because from a software perspective, the least expensive acquisitions would come from just continuing to buy more games on this console, right? So you don't have to spend any money on another console or PC upgrades or whatever have you, right?
Yeah. When I look at my library, I actually have way more Microsoft games because when I was obviously when you're a kid, it's just like whatever your parents get for you. So
yeah, well, 360 doesn't count anymore though. So
right,
I'm talking about the current generation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I went PS2, switched to 360 because I was like, Halo looks cool. I'm 17, and then
Call of Duty, yeah,
and then I swapped back to the PS4 because what the fuck would you ever say?
And I would argue that is the narrative that actually was defined by most people who grew up through that era. They started with PS2 because they heard PS1 was pretty good, and obviously PS2 was a huge hit. It became this global phenomenon, and then everyone kind of switched over to 360 because they handled online better. They were doing a lot of other stuff. And again, the PS3 was actually super highly priced at launch, there's an irony to that story.
And it was a year later too, was the big thing, right?
Exactly, yeah. And 360 was doing a lot of cool things. And then when things switched to Xbox One and PS4, a lot of people switched to Sony again, just based on things that the companies were doing. So I'm just saying, but I would, even though we all own Sony consoles, I wouldn't say any of us are really Sony fanboys. I may become close because I use a Vita, but even still, like, I'm not gung-ho about every single
Chris, what's the over-under on how many times Ryan says Vita in this?
It's a Vita than there was in the entire Sony press conference.
Oh, don't even get me started. The Vita is one of the best freaking handheld platforms that exists, and it's so underdeveloped.
I'm going to run to Tim's, Ryan. You go ahead and talk about that.
I was just saying to Kyle, I kind of do want to get one. If
it's
I can
such
find
a good
one,
indie console,
and
even though there was no mention of the Vita on the press conference, that epic game that I haven't had a chance to try that looks hilarious and kooky and awesome. It's like a WarioWare mixed with like RPG elements and turn-based stuff called Undertale. That is like they showed at the
Dude, have you never played Undertale?
Yeah, they showed it at the pre-press conference. That's coming to PS4. Kyle, they announced that not during the press conference, during the pre-show, and it's coming to Vita.
Dude, we watched the pre-show.
Vita.
We know.
Vita.
Let's get into more of the main events here, though, because there's a fair amount of games to cover. They didn't really talk too much. It was mainly video to video, kind of just.
I have Vita on me right now, just to show it.
Pretty much what Microsoft did as well.
Game.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. Is there one you guys want to start talking about first? Anyone that has interest in?
I'm just gonna start with something that was like it's kind of a weird thing to be hyped about, but they also were hyped about it. So I'll just kind of dabble first with it because I think might as well start with it first. Spider-Man. So Spider-Man is a PS4 exclusive made by Insomniac, which hasn't made a PS4 exclusive since the Ratchet and Clank days, I believe. Which is odd. So Insomniac used to do the Spider-Man games on PS2, like Spider-Man 1 or 2, I think it was. That was the big hit. But this just closed the show for Sony, which I thought was odd. And then everyone kind of reminded you, oh, remember that Sony and Marvel's got that movie coming out in July. But this game doesn't come out till early next year, or was it Christmas this year? I think it was early next year.
I think it's early next year.
So I'm sitting there thinking, the movie comes out in July. Like, I guess, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Marvel is a big deal. Spider-Man's a big deal, but this movie isn't set in the Marvel any continuity. It's its own thing. Clearly, Spider-Man is a different suit, and I'm still hyped about it. Though, don't get me wrong. I think it looks really good. It's just it was a weird game, I think, to close the show on.
It is, except that like I'm assuming that everyone here played. I can't remember what it was called, but that one for the PS2 that had like amazingly fun swinging mechanics, and then like the rest of the
game. That was Spider-Man 2. I believe that was actually based on the movie of Spider-Man 2, because remember, before the MCU got all started, both X-Men and original Spider-Man for Sony got going. Well, X-Men was for 20th Century Fox, but Sony got the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies I'm talking about, 1 and 2. They actually kind of broke the comic book stuff onto the scene. So they were making, I believe it might have been Activision committee. You know what? Let's figure this out.
Sure.
I know that it's.
Or no, it was Treyarch, wasn't it?
No, it might have been Treyarch. Yeah, I thought it was Insomniac who made one of these too. Yeah, it was. It was Treyarch. It was Treyarch. Spider-Man 2 was Treyarch, and that had kind of the open world stuff that everyone kind of liked.
Mm-hmm.
But has Insomniac actually never made a Spider-Man game?
Could be. There's really no way to know, Ryan. There's no way to know. Well, but yeah, I mean, I think that everyone's like hyped to see like, hey, you guys took that fun swinging stuff. Did you make like a good game around it? Because like I'd be down to play that because like the swinging part of that was great.
Yeah, they've actually.
I'll give my personal.
They've never made a Spider-Man game.
My personal perspective is, I'm kind of. I thought it was good. Like it looked good. I think the combat looked real good. I like some of the ways you could connect things, but I am a little concerned. It was very quick timey. Now, granted, obviously they'll probably do free roam and that will kind of solve that. But I just. At least what they showed was super quick timey, which I'm not a big quick time fan.
Outside of it being like a core mechanic of the game, like with heavy.
To me, it doesn't look like it's the quick time events are a core mechanic of the game. Like to me, it looked like it might be structured similar to open world game where you kind of go through different quests, and during certain narrative or quest beats, it enables you to do those cool epic save the day, like how he was webbing up with the quick time events, webbing up a bunch of stuff to prevent it from falling. It seems like that would be in those sequences only, and there'd still be a lot of time for you to run around and engage in the combat. And so I'm a big Spider-Man gamer to a degree. It's been a while since I played one. The last one I played was Shattered Dimensions, which had Neil Patrick Harris voicing Spider-Man, and its whole gimmick was that there was
like 4 different Spider-Mans or some shit.
Yes, and there was a Noir one, which kind of played all stealthy, and it wasn't a great game.
Noir? You know it's pronounced noir, right?
Get out of here, noir film. I know it's noir. Get out.
Oh my god! Yeah, it was a noir.
I know it's noir. I'm a big fan of noir, Kyle. Get out of here. It doesn't matter. Potato.
Vita. Deal with it.
Vita. Anyway, it had a, you know what, I'm going to mispronounce it just to make a point. It had a noir element.
Okay, hang on. Let me just,
it also had 4 different Spider-Mans from the comics. That's essentially what 4 different Spider-Man comic universes. And that was at the time when there was like a future one, which was like 2099. And it was an all right game, but it had some of the good swinging elements, but it was kind of all restrictive in its level design. There was a couple open levels, but it wasn't open world. And its combat wasn't great. And that's kind of been the big thing for me with most of these Spider-Man games, is despite the fact that I've played them, because, I'm a sucker for cash-ins of properties that I dig. But the combat's not great. And this looked really good. So it looked like it had some Batman or Shadow of Mordor-esque animation stuff, but the fact that you could throw in like cool context sensitive or sorry, contextual in general, like webbings where it looked like you'd like web his arm up to a certain pillar or throw a guy in the air and web him and hang him and do like, it just looked like you could. There was a lot of flexibility and variety with the animations to create a combat that just really flowed in a way that it was like, this is cool.
It looked like you could get creative. There was one moment in the demo that I noticed specifically where somebody, like when he was still being like stealthy, but he kind of broke out, where he webbed somebody and then like strung out the web and used that person as a counterweight to swing himself around and kick another guy in the back. Like when everyone turned to look at the guy.
And this was still during live combat, not during a cutscene. That's the point we're making. This was actually, you would be able to do this. And if you've ever played a Batman or a Shadow of Mordor, you understand how that animation system, when you're near things, allows you to use like buildings or things in a context way that would, create, as Kyle said, a really cool scene. You're talking specifically about when he pulled the beams, right, and hit the guy and then webbed after that.
No, I'm talking about when he was up on the beams that were like above, and he was standing on a beam, and then there was another guy like chilling down here, and he shot him, and then went around another beam and like pulled that guy up while he used the force of himself to go around and kick a guy in the back. Yeah, and the interface for it looked relatively easy too, where like you could see like they weren't like intrusive, but they were like, here's like you can hit the spot with a web, and you'll basically be able to tell like what it's going to do once you play the game. So like it seems like it's relatively like user friendly, where it's like, okay, like I know you're not fighting with the game mechanics. It looked like, obviously we don't know yet.
And for me, there's a reason to have a little bit of hope, because normally with games like this, you just think cash in. Well, the fact that this isn't coming out at the same timeline as the movie, I think indicates that it's not just a cash in. It clearly has no connection to the movie, because the movie is obviously got in the Marvel universe with Robert Downey Jr. And this is a completely different Spider-Man, but it looks like his suit's completely different.
And we don't sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Have they announced that the game's open world for sure?
I'm pretty sure it is. It's Insomniac. So their previous games are Ratchet and Clank, which are all open world space games with like guns and stuff. They're an open world developer.
Sort of.
Okay, here we go. The Wikipedia page for the game specifically states set in an open world modern day New York City.
Okay. Well, Wikipedia never lies, so I think that we can take that for investigatory journalism.
I've never edited Wikipedia in my life. I thought personally, I'll get my thoughts quick. It looked good. I'm gonna kind of wait and see. It's not gonna be a game I buy right away, that's for sure. But that's just my trepidation with some certain kind of games. But yeah, definitely the combat looks sick. I'm curious to see how much quick timing, if it is like that kind of helps. But as long as it's not a core mechanic to that game,
the web slinging looked pretty good too. I think we kind of
that looked fine. There was a sequence after the QuickTime events when he was chasing him throughout the city with the helicopter, and crashing into buildings, and that all looked live, like gameplay. Like it looked like Uncharted style, where you only get those QuickTime events in those interactive style cutscenes, and they seamlessly merge those in between and out of gameplay sections. And if that's the type of thing they're going for, and you got to think, I mean, this is a PS4 exclusive, so Sony's probably allowing them access to the type of tech and information that would enable them to build that type of seamless transitions that you see in an Uncharted game. Like, to me, that worked perfect for an action adventure game like Spider-Man. But I agree, Chris, those things shouldn't be core mechanics. Like, you shouldn't run up to an enemy, engage in combat, and then force a quick time event every time there's an enemy encounter. But for those big boss sequences where you're crashing into buildings, I get it. You can't do things of that scale without quick time events, and that looks dope when you do them.
Yeah, if it's like here and there, it's like if it's like. It's like the high point of a roller coaster. Like, it's exciting, but you don't want that to be the whole roller coaster. And it makes it those moments more special.
Sometimes you just want to go fast on a straightaway for a little bit and feel that speed.
And then, every once in a while, it's really nice to stop a helicopter from hitting the ground, but you don't want to be stopping helicopters every 10 minutes, or you're like, man, we should really get the army in here. It's like Spider-Man, dude needs to sleep sometimes.
I will admit, and Kyle knows for sure that this was true, I was a little disappointed to see Spider-Man be the game at the end, because
I just
start you were, but
I was still cool with it. But like when they announced, true exclusive and from a very well respected developer, my first thought goes to Naughty Dog and Last of Us 2, and I was just like, sweet, like I can't wait. And then I was like, oh, it's Spider-Man. I'm like, okay,
yeah. Well, they already had shitty knockoff Fucking.
Oh,
To be
yeah,
fair,
we'll
I
get-
believe
let's get
Last
to
of Us
that.
2. I believe Last of Us 2 has already been announced as well. So
It's been announced.
it's not
Yeah.
like that game is.
We also
I
got
wanna
to
see
see
something.
a tech demo for a shitty knockoff Last of Us called Days Gone with unlikable.
Let's get into Days
biker.
Gone.
That's not Last of Us. Come on, that's a zombie game.
No, but like it looked like it had Last of Us look to it, except it was like, hey, let's have a shitty protagonist that nobody likes.
Hold on.
I don't know.
You
we
say
can get
it's a
into Days
zombie
Gone.
game?
It is.
So is The Last of Us.
Yeah, but
also,
okay, that's not
Ryan.
even okay. Listen, I don't understand how you could even remotely compare those two titles. Days Gone is an open world survival horror game where you're a motorbiker taking on hordes of zombies that move in hordes and don't seem to have that many special abilities. The only big thing they showed near the end was like a bear zombie. Whereas Last of Us is a completely narrative driven where you're with one other character and you're just trying to like it is still survival horror, but like the open world doesn't even look remotely the same. You're literally just a biker. Like, I don't know. To me, Days Gone looks like what I'm trying to think of a good example.
Looks like trash.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks amazing, but it looks like a third person It looks like to me like a third person Dying Light almost.
Okay.
You
know what? That's
Pretty good
actually pretty good. A pretty good example.
Well, I think
with the twist, you're a biker.
Yeah. And that guy
The trailer looked way better than the gameplay. Like the trailer made it look kind of simple. It looks
the
cool.
gameplay doesn't look that great, but I'll say the open world looked decently interesting, and the fact that you could it depends how free you are to go around with your bike. Like if you can just drive on roads, that'll suck. But if you could take that bike anywhere, that might be fun.
The biking around seemed pretty cool, but at the same time, I have a feeling that game's going to suffer from a lack of good characters. In a big way.
I guess I'm just thinking, for me, what seems so off to the comparison to The Last of Us was the tone. Days Gone doesn't seem serious. I mean, it seems like you're this dumb douchebaggy biker, and it's like,
I just meant literally.
Like it seems like if you mix Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whereas Last of Us is like that just seems cold, hard, or like harsh. Like it's like tonally they're not even
as much of a. Last of Us is almost a movie.
But to me, Days Gone is Sony's answer to Dead Rising. More so than it is like
I like the Dying Light comparison. Honestly, that was
the Dying Light one was better. It was mostly like I was memeing Ryan. The thing was there was like a moment when they started the thing where I was like, this looks a little bit Last of Us-y, like in terms of like aesthetics at that moment, like when they were in the middle of like a jungle thing and like dude was crouching in a thing, and I was like, yeah, you could just like swap him out for Joel, and this feels a little bit Last of Us-y, and then but like it was more of a meme comparison. Also, there's one game that I can't believe we didn't talk about yet because this is easily the most important game.
Well, we've only talked about 2 so far, so
I know, but this was the most important.
I hope
one.
it's the Triple F, right?
No, Chris, no. You know it's the Triple F. This is something that is really important because it's my second favorite group of 4 guys who like to hang out besides us and Shane. Like my boy Noctis and Ignis and the other 2 that I can't remember the name of, Prompto and Gladiolus. Final Fantasy
Fishing.
Yeah.
So how about we just get into the VR block in general?
Sure. Final Fantasy Fishing, the least interesting of the mini games from Final Fantasy 15. Let's give that its own game.
Hey, I played that mini game a couple times.
Hey, Ryan, Final Fantasy Photography would have been a better game.
You don't really. I mean, you can take photos, but I mean, you don't really have to because your boy's taking photos all the time.
Right? No, but that's what I'm getting at. That would have been a better game than fishing. Are you kidding me? If it was like you're fighting sort of, but like everyone else is doing crazy stuff, and it's like Prompto, we need some good shots for the montage of our bachelor party.
I mean, this is only their first app yet, Cal. Who knows? Maybe your dream will be realized.
Oh my God, you're right. And then they call it Final Fantasy Snap. Because it's basically Pokemon
Creeper, because all that's going to happen if they give people free roam is they're just going to go under every girl and just snap.
Okay, no, you don't let Pronto crouch. That's the only thing.
Oh God.
Plus, there's not that many girls. There's like one girl in that entire.
Don't even get started. It's Final Fantasy. Have you seen how overtly sexual that is? The first character you meet, Cindy, literally has no.
She's like the only one.
She's basically wearing no clothes. She might as well be made by Kojima. Like how ridiculously sexualized.
But she's the only one. There are other I don't remember how far into that game you got, Ryan, but your main love interest is in the game for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but that's still the first woman you meet in the wasteland.
She's the only woman that you meet. She's the only one.
She just happens to be a mechanic, so they're like, oh, we can lean into the wear no clothes because isn't that what mechanics do now? It's like, no, that's what stereotypical mechanics did in like 1920.
Yeah, which is maybe when this game takes place. I don't know. Anyway, fishing. Who cares about fishing? I don't even play Final Fantasy Cooking.
Most of the games they showed for VR, with the exception of Super Hot VR, which that just when I get PlayStation VR, which I will eventually once I get a Pro, which I'm looking to do in the next year-ish, I'll definitely be playing Super Hot VR. I don't know if you guys have played Super Hot, but Super Hot is awesome. It's just
I was gonna say, I feel like we've all seen enough of Super Hot where we all know it's awesome. And
Yeah.
It's one, yeah, but you still need to throw that game in your presser, in my opinion, to say, hey, you know that thing you all assumed we would get on here, that we need to get on here, and that everyone knows is an instant buy. We're still listening to that. We're not forgetting that. Like, that's important.
Yeah, well, they threw it in the pre-show.
But you're right. Yeah, no, they threw that in the main show because.
Oh, did they? I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it's a big deal. Because Super Hot's. I mean, like, again, because it's important to.
It was very brief. In the main show.
It's just a quick. Yes, we still get you. It's about getting good VR games. But yeah, the VR block was weird.
It was very interesting. I don't think I'd ever play it, but it was very interesting.
Depends on what the cost. It looks like a lot of the VR stuff. It looks like an experience more than like a game.
Yeah,
I feel like it's the type of game that you would get bored of real friggin' quick, though.
They did show that you would be catching multiple different types of enemies, though, so there might be actually a game. Because at the end, they showed some giant snake or something that you were catching. I was like, what? And then it was called like Monsters of the Deep. So yeah, maybe it's like catch and fight a bunch of. I wonder if you even fight them, or if you just try to catch it and get scared because of how big they are and yada yada.
Oh, speaking of fucking games with catching monsters, I can't believe that they're finally bringing it to a console that's not handheld, but Monster Hunter. Does anybody have any loud exclamations to make about this game?
As someone who likes Dark Souls, I'll say that I've never thought about picking up a Monster Hunter game until that trailer. That trailer made me like, maybe I should pick up a Monster Hunter game.
Could be a fun
I'll just try it.
Like, we could get the three of us because Shane's too much of a dick to buy a console. But like, hey, let's go hunt some monsters.
The combat looked really sick. You could do so many different things. He was riding on things. He was doing like jumping off cliffs and like sick combos into like different stuff. And you're like, what is happening here?
Wait, Ryan, do you mean that he was riding things, or was he like, fuck yeah, ride it?
Indeed. He was riding things.
Yeah.
That looks cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think that I wanted to get the last one, like looking at it, but I was like, I don't want to play this on a handheld.
Does it look stripped down to you guys though? That's what it kind of looks like to me.
Looks like what?
Stripped down, I mean, like, if you've seen footage of other Monster Hunters, and maybe I'm completely off the base here, but some of the footage I've seen, there's a lot more HUD elements in Monster Hunter. Like, it's a lot more. Like
I don't think we never saw the HUD though. That was like
I was curious if there was no HUD, and they were going Dark Souls-y and saying. The combat's just the combat. If you want to look at that stuff, go into a menu. We're going to present it really visually impressive and like give it that sense of presence that you
I don't think so. Especially because, like, from my understanding, that game has a lot to do with like it plays a lot like an MMO. Like in terms of like you constantly see like everybody's buffs and their health.
But the combat doesn't, obviously.
The timer on it during combat it does it does, but no, like in terms of like you have to like actually run up to shit and hit it. It's not just like this is your auto.
But I mean you can't do those type of animation styles in MMO games, kind of like running off things and riding them.
No. But I mean like in terms of
it's literally not impressive. It's you just stand in front of them and do an attack animation over.
Right. But I mean like in terms of the gameplay, like
those some MMOs, that's starting to get better, but there's still a lot of MMOs that are like that.
Yeah, the World of Warcraft model. But no, like what I'm getting at is you need to have a HUD for those, like to know like, okay, this buff's going to wear off in like 5 seconds, so I should probably.
Well, yeah, but those could be displayed by icons, right? You could display icons on the screen. That's how Dark Souls does it. So that there is a HUD in Dark Souls. It's just very, very limited. And like they try to display things Call of Duty style more with on-screen effects instead of with actual on-screen. I'm sure it's a Monster Hunter game, so I'm sure even if they have a HUD or don't have a HUD, that there will be an option to turn it off or on in the menu.
Yeah,
like it's because of the way they presented it in the trailer. They were looking like they're trying to go for that. Hey, isn't this kind of crazy how cool all this looks? Without like it looks really like dynamic and action heavy.
Yeah, it's like the impression I got was that wasn't the gameplay trailer. It looked like that was a little bit more scripted. But like, hey, here's some shit you're gonna be able to do. But I don't think that was like.
I don't know. He was running around and doing stuff. Like he ran from that T-Rex. Like he went to the T-Rex, then ran, and then the T-Rex chased him into a thing. Like you've played Uncharted. Like to me, that's what that looked like. Like you are controlling and you're doing things like remember in an Uncharted game when you're running away from a truck after it crashes, that seemed exactly like that T-Rex bit. You're controlling that as you run away and it chases you through the tunnel. That's what it looked like to me anyway.
Well, I think we can agree that Uncharted needed more T-Rex.
Wait, I'm pretty sure at the beginning of that Monster Hunter trailer, it did say all this footage is in engine.
Oh, that could be the case. I'm not sure. What were you going to say, Chris?
Oh, I was just gonna segue a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Because we do have quite a few. I was gonna kind of throw a couple of these because you mentioned Uncharted. They did show the. I know it's not technically DLC; it's like a standalone type thing, but
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's not gonna
Lost
be like a
Legacy.
full game. Truly,
I mean, to me, it kind of seems like it might be a 10-hour or 6-hour thing or something.
yeah.
like a short game version of it.
I'd imagine it comes out at we'll pay because we're in Canada 60, but I imagine it'll come out at 40 American.
Yeah,
like that seems like the price for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was showed. We had some the new Call of Duty, a little bit on that.
Yeah, that does nothing for me anymore.
Doesn't really do much for me either.
Damn.
I'm kind of getting some of the stuff out of the
tell me.
way that I don't think any of us are really going to care too much to talk about.
Just as you dabbled on it, I'll briefly say about Call of Duty.
Yep.
I'm a former COD player. I played Modern Warfare 1, 2. I kept up with Black Ops. I kind of started getting off like a lot of people did during the later stages. I realized they're going back to World War II, even though I said that does nothing for me. And I'm like, there's like a 99% chance I won't pick it up unless they do something crazy with the multiplayer that's like, subverts both Overwatch or my potential to play Battlefront 2 later in the year. It looked impressive. Like what they're doing in World War II looked like I was initially really skeptical by saying, they're just going to go back to World War II. We're going to revisit these other moments in the war that, that we've all visited at some point or another. But it seems like they're still visiting, big landmark moments that were visited in other games. But I was always wondering, what's their spin on it? Well, their spin on it was, well, now we're years later and we can actually depict this way more visually and tonally graphic in a way that we didn't before. Like the animation kills near windows and like the overall just tone and the close quarters to the combat and how they presented that looked like I got it. Like I was like, I've never before felt like I'm watching something that makes me feel like I'm literally at World War II than this. But that doesn't change the fact that I played every other Call of Duty. Like it looks like you guys are presenting something. Like I get it. I get the angle they're going for. But it doesn't change the fact that I played too many Call of Duty and I'm done with it.
It looks good. I doubt I'll play it.
Yes, I'm pretty much the same opinion.
Maybe if it gets cheap, I might buy it and play a campaign and stuff like that. But honestly, I haven't been big in a Call of Duty game since probably Modern Warfare 2, maybe Black Ops 1. So for me, it's not a huge thing.
Like I'm sure the multiplayer will still be fun. There's still, don't get me wrong, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people playing that multiplayer after it comes out. I mean, it's a Call of Duty game, but it's
yeah, for sure.
I feel like the number of people who are still keeping up with Call of Duty over the years, similar to World of Warcraft, they're numbers that are high, but they're still going down. They're still really high numbers, but it's like there are people who just
it's past its peak for sure.
Yeah, especially in a new Overwatch world. I think Overwatch really Overwatch hit hard. Like it.
Yeah, dude.
A lot of people got out of COD and even Battlefield to a degree. Just to try other stuff out, like Overwatch. I mean, I don't really want to say Battlefront because Battlefront's basically Battlefield with Star Wars. But like, there's a lot more types of games that are multiplayer with a different spin on it now, and not just the same old. We've done it before with COD and
how much do you guys think that has to do with tone? Because one of the things that you play over and over again in Call of Duty multiplayer and in shooter multiplayers in general, and it wasn't just Call of Duty. If you were up to date and playing multiplayers of that era, before Overwatch, before we've started exploring more field now with like Destiny and other things, it was basically modern military shooters. That's what you're playing. You were playing Counter-Strike, you're playing Battlefield, you were playing Overwatch, Medal of Honor. All the multiplayers were just gritty, realistic, boots on ground, Marine, you got a rifle. And tonally, at a certain point, you're just like, this is a fun mode. So when you see something with the tone of like an Overwatch, very Pixar, that contributes to the fun of the mode better. Like I just kind of feel like you get bogged down with just, this is war. I'm shooting a dude in the face with a regular bullet. Like tonally, it just feels like
there's something more fun about shooting a giant dude with a hook in his hand, or
he's a monkey.
Putting up a
exactly. Yeah. Like I feel like part of the push in that direction is a big contributor to tone, because I think we've just been playing modern military or military in general. It's like
a 19-year-old Korean girl in a giant mech.
Yeah.
Where else can you shoot a giant Korean girl in a giant mech who wants to talk?
Well, look at Splatoon, which did really well for Nintendo. That's a shooter, but it has a completely different tone. I think part of the
Nintendo for Nintendo conference, Ryan.
Yeah, a part of the decline is just, I think that tonally it's like we've done military. Military is a thing. We get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what war you set it in. We've done
Speaking of military,
let's talk about Shadow of the Colossus. That has nothing to do with the military.
nice. This
I knew Kyle would be
really,
starting with something.
it's
How
really
do we have him on?
remastered,
Because
right?
Kyle's you're a big fan of this game, aren't you, Kyle? This is one of your
I've
favorite
never even
games of all
played it,
time.
but I love this game. I've seen it played.
What? I thought it was you who told me this is one of your favorite games of all time.
I love this game. I've seen playthroughs. I've never owned it. I'll probably buy
Oh,
this.
right.
To
You've
get that
watched
version.
playthroughs of like Game Grumps and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's a little bit more funny there, but the guy who played it is the not so grump, and he's very much like a more emotional person. And
Okay.
there's a lot of emotion tied into the story. It's very simple, but it's very well executed.
I've actually seen people play this too, not online. This was back in the days before people did YouTube. I saw someone play this on original PS2.
Yeah, it was like
2001. I was like, this is super impressive. This remake looks awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scale. Oh man. Why wouldn't that be in VR? I'd want to see those Titans in VR. That would blow your mind.
Oh man, they should totally make that in VR.
Yeah, the game's too, I think the game's too dynamic for that.
Probably, yeah.
I've never seen or played a Shadows of the Colossus.
Well, there's only one game, Chris.
There's only one. Yeah, it's
good.
been remade twice.
It looked fucking great.
It's been remastered and now it's being remade because this looks like they completely made a new engine and just put Shadow of the Colossus in it. Like it basically looks like they made a new game with a new engine, but we're like, well, we're just going to make everything that happens Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, as I say, I've heard of the game, like the original, but I've really know nothing about it. Never even seen it.
Okay, so I'll just give you like kind of the
I was gonna say, give me a little bit of a lowdown.
Yeah. So the whole game is very simple. There's 16 Colossuses. You have to kill them. The game is divided into getting to the Colossuses with your horse friend, and the whole game is just these Colossuses are gigantic. You have to climb them and get to their weak point and stab the weak point. But there's like a grip gauge for climbing. You can only climb certain parts of them because they're huge, and like the impact on them is very, very noticeable. When they take a step and you're close by, the earth tremors and you fall over. If they start throwing you around, you have to hold on for dear life or you get sent across the level. And each of them is very, very unique, right? Like there's just like your standard climbing or like, oh, this guy's got armor all around him, so I need to figure out a way to make him like hit something with his sword, so part of his stone armor falls off, and then there's hair underneath you can grab it. Sometimes your horse is involved, like there's a giant underground snake that you have to like jump from your horse back to. Like each of the bosses feels very unique and different, and some of them are better than others for sure. But it's kind of a well-worn genre at this point. If you play a lot of indie games, they do this. They're essentially boss rush the game. It's where but this is the first
structured in a hub world. It's one of the first ones that really popularized it. But like most of the games that are obviously doing it, you would say, oh, this is like Shadow of the Colossus. Like a lot of games, you kind of get presented with a hub world, and how you engage in that hub world leads you to the different bosses. But then you beat the game just by beating the bosses.
Yeah, there's like no random enemies running around or anything. It's just
there's no other combat sector. And this allows them to make all the bosses really dynamic so that they aren't just like, Zelda style or any other style, because there's no basic combat. It's basically just there are ways to beat the bosses.
There's like climb, grabbing, grip mechanic, and stabby. And you hold out the stabby for like longer to make it do more damage. But if they start thrashing around, you're not holding on very strong because you've only got like one hand holding on to the Colossus, and you have to like pick your moments.
And it's a big thing with scale too, obviously, like the scale of the Colossus.
They did the scale really well.
Like, you're climbing them, but like seeing that reimagined in the trailer with the PS4 graphics, oh my god! Like you're just amazing. Like even though this looks like the same game, the same bosses, the same stuff, what they did to it in that engine, it's like yes, this is a game that like Shadow of the Colossus always felt like this. Even in the PS2, this is a game that you're sitting there looking at Eco going, man, if they could have made this like 10 years later, completely, it would have sold what they were going for completely.
Yeah, better. Which they did now. So cool.
That's what. Well, a different studio is making it.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's Team Eco. So Team Eco, Chris, is the Last Guardian guys as well. They released that last year. They're kind of known for those big, they do things of that size. Usually, there's always something involved, a creature or something that's huge. Remind me of Kyle, the Never-Ending Story, because they always go for that kind of. You're usually always a single character in a crazy.
Oh, and speaking of the Never-Ending Story. They also have a horse.
Yeah, that's true.
So one thing about this game that I was just reading about here that some people are kind of a little frustrated with, and you can give me your take on this. They are going to be launching it at full price because they are considering it a remake and not a remaster.
I actually am okay with that.
I 100% okay with that.
My issues with them charging full price would be if like the work that was done was minimal enough that you're going, come on. Like, yes, we've all played this game before, but no, we haven't, because none of us have played this game with a PS4 engine before with those crap. Like, they redid the whole thing. It's not like,
He's just the publisher essentially stated that essentially is not going to be a remake whatsoever, and it's not a remaster whatsoever, and it is completely a remake. He said it's the same in terms of content, but a lot has changed when it comes to preferences for controls. And working a more modernized way to play with the new controllers, obviously, and all that.
Well. Then like I'm
totally the graphical overhauls as well, obviously, because it's obviously not even just the same engine, right?
Of course, and also still having the feel of the original version. They still want to use all the same code from is it Eco that did it before you?
Team Eco.
Still wants to use the same general.
Like they clearly use code and assets for sure.
Yeah,
but like they were taking that code and assets, and I'm imagining applying it to their engine and making all that work. Like for me, that type of value proposition comes down to I try to put myself in the publisher's shoes and think, what's a fair way to price this? And when I look at a game of this style, I think, so A, what can they play out there that's like this? Well, sure, they could play the remake, but they'd have to play that on PS3, and a lot of people don't want to dig out their PS3s. So it's like you're sitting there going, okay, well, what other games like this are out there? So there's been a lot of other games similar to Shadow of the Colossus, but most of them have been indie. You cannot find a AAA boss rush style game, the quality of Shadow of the Colossus, on either console right now. The fact that that's what they're producing absolutely to me means they can charge full price for that, because you cannot find a game that's with that production value and that type of scale and obviously that type of quality. You can't find that on the market right now. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, we should move on. We've still got a few big things to talk about.
Yeah, so we got I think we got three really left here.
Can I just quickly wrap up the VR block, because we started with that a bit ago?
Sure.
I'll say that they showed both Fallout VR and Elder Scrolls Skyrim VR, and I don't get either of those. I don't understand why, especially Skyrim VR. I don't get why that's
Skyrim's been released about 1,700 times already. We're good.
I'll
play it the regular way. It's a good game.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. Is there any other VR games I'm missing? I know they showed. Oh no, Doom in VR, yes, which looked interesting. That was probably the most interesting thing of VR block. Obviously, I thought it was super hot, but super hot's amazing. It didn't look like you move normally. It looks like you teleport and everything was in slow motion. And you kind of just interact with stuff. It looked like Doom was running at fast motion and you were teleporting around as if you were, as everything else was slow around you because you're so fast. And that seemed neat. I'm kind of really curious to see how it plays and like what it is, a little more deeper. I didn't think that trailer showed much other than that. It's like there's a slowdown time mechanic that seems to be almost always on. You teleport around and do a bunch of stuff, but it didn't seem like you were the Doom guy. It seemed like you were something else at times too. So I don't actually know what that even is.
I'm trying to remember that. Actually, I can't. I don't think I even have that written down because I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I might have walked up.
I mean, the VR block was kind of quick and covered a bunch of games.
Yeah, it was super quick. Okay, so I think that covers the VR block. So we have 3 games we talked about. One of them we're probably not going to talk long because I think this is more of a. This isn't an exclusive. So Destiny 2, they did show a little bit more on Destiny 2. I don't think we have to cover it for too long, but we can give brief thoughts, I think, on that one.
Yeah,
I'm going to play Destiny 2. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to play Destiny 2.
More Destiny has Destiny.
Yeah.
All the exclusive content on the PS4 only confirms that I'm going to get it.
We're going to probably, fair warning to people, we are probably going to at some point do at least some features on Destiny.
Yeah,
we're doing
I would say
very
our
likely.
YouTube channel is going to be loaded with Destiny 2 content.
If nothing else, some multiplayer at the very least to commit to stuff.
Nah, fucking, we're gonna play it properly, dude. You kidding me? That's gonna be a long-standing series.
Okay,
Destiny,
well, I think we're good with Destiny. We talk a lot.
So much was announced about Destiny before E3. Everyone knows what Destiny 2 is at this point.
Yeah, fucking Destiny.
We all know what we're in for.
We're gonna save the one I know Ryan really likes a lot for last. I think we all liked it too. We're gonna talk Detroit.
Oh, Detroit starring Doctor from Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, Dr. Jackson Avery.
Detroit.
I'm still disappointed that you know this, Chris.
I've no shame. I've caught up on Grey's.
Oh, what?
I've never played Beyond, but I did play the shit out of Heavy Rain. I have a platinum for Heavy Rain. I'm one of the few who went through the exact guide with different saves so I could see every scene, because that's how you get the platinum on PS3 of Heavy Rain.
Let me just say, this game
ever-
either looks like it's going to be amazing or like terrible.
Hot garbage, yeah.
Here's the problem, Chris. Here's the problem. That's not actually the case at all. The
Really?
reality is this game is going to be both the things you said, because that's always what a David Cage game is. So did you ever play Heavy Rain?
I have seen people play Heavy Rain. I haven't actually played it myself.
So David Cage builds games that are basically adventure games with a lot of quick time events, but he kind of puts more gameplay in there than your average Walking Dead. And he puts choices in there that are usually, they're not always choices. They kind of are, but they're not always. Like sometimes they turn the narrative path completely different and can make your ending go completely for a loop. Sometimes they're literally inconsequential, even though before you make the choice, you think, man, this is going to be a big decision. So you can't really get a gauge for what that is.
But until you know what those decisions, like if it's going to matter or not, like the first playthrough is always really exciting because you don't know what matters and what doesn't.
Yes.
Once you know,
but
it's
the
like,
problem
it
is
feels
the problem is what matters isn't always. You're sitting there going, I can specifically remember a scene where there is a scene in Heavy Rain. This game's been out for a while now, so I don't mind
kind of the
spoilers.
finger cut off thing.
No, I'm talking about when you're driving on the wrong side.
The highway. Yeah.
So there's a scene where you're driving on the wrong side, and the first time you play that scene, so it's all quick time events, but you know you're sitting there and. Before the game came out, they were, David Cage games, they announced your choices matter. Characters can die and the story will still go. So as you're playing that scene, you're sitting there going, oh my God, I'm driving down the highway on the wrong road because it's like a Saw setup and your kid is kidnapped and this is what they tell you to do.
You have to do it.
And you're like, I don't want to crash. I don't want to crash because I will die. And what will happen? He's not going to get to his son. This is like, it's got me gripped. When you play through the whole game, you realize you actually can't die in that scene. If you screw up, he drives off the road. And it changes the way the scene flows, but that specific scene actually doesn't lead to any different narrative branches. So when you're playing through that, to me, that is the exact scene that should lead to different narrative, because I think if I screw up, well, couldn't a car just hit me and I die? But that's not, it's not scripted to do that. And that's the thing. The illusion of choice around, it's like Mass Effect, the illusion of choice around the scripting, but sometimes what actually changes the narrative, you're like, that feels like that feels a little too convenient. There should be other, it just doesn't always feel organic.
A game that did a really good job with that was Until Dawn, I think, where like a lot of moments did matter.
Yeah. Until Dawn is a David Cage game without being Until Dawn is it's a very good version of a David Cage game. Until Dawn very much plays.
Play through it? I know you did, Chris, but did you play through it, Ryan?
I haven't, no.
No? Okay.
You've seen people play through it though, right?
Me? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Brett Dalton's in that. For those who don't know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Our boy,
here, Brett Dalton.
hell yeah.
I
was really
scared.
I ended up losing
won
him at the very end of the game. He died in like the final boss for me.
Yeah.
And it felt so bad because it was one of those segments where it's like hold your controller perfectly still, and
that's how I lost Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah,
if you're sitting there, people too, by the way, saying screw you, people for liking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., get past the first half of season 1, and then you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it turns out the most boring character ever is actually the most amazing character ever.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, Detroit, Chris, you're right. It could. So when his games come out. Usually there are people who are just like, I don't dig QuickTime events. I don't dig what this is. And they need it. And I mean, you have to kind of be in the mindset for that. Usually the first playthrough can be pretty good. They look like they're doing some more different stuff in this that I think is interesting.
Would you take or refuse the Molotov cocktail, Ryan?
Yeah, but there's examples of just what impact does that decision have?
Yeah, I think
I'm assuming that like either you throw it or this person's like, well, fuck you, then it throws it themselves.
You guys can't keep presenting this illusion of choice and saying that it's a big deal when half of them really aren't. It's like 5% as big of a deal as you think.
For me, visually, it looked great. Looks stunning, actually. I think the concept's great. I'm gonna either wait for more info before I decide if I'm gonna get it, or I'm at very least going to wait and see what people think of it. Once it does come out.
I'm always intrigued with do robot lives matter? We had a whole discussion about this with clones, but the whole thing still applies to robots, Ryan.
That's true, but are they robots? That's the thing.
Yeah, they're robots.
They display them as androids.
They're fucking mechanical beings, okay?
Robots and androids are different.
Sort of.
We're not getting into this.
No, because androids my point is, androids could have organic tissue, so they could be more human than you think. That's the point. Like, at what point do we say someone's not a human? When they're not born, or is it when they're created, or is it when they're born? What's the difference? Because if they're not made of metal and they're made of human flesh with blood and recreated or organic things, then they're more human, or just as much human as they are machine, right?
Yeah.
Like that actually matters in the term.
We're not going to get into their philosophy.
If my toaster gained sentience, that's a lot different than an Android. That's the point I'm getting at. It's just because there's a difference between sentient machine and Android.
That's a debate that we could have. First, we need to get some drinks in us. But yeah.
Day drinks.
Oh, come on, Ryan. Be professional.
Hey, any more thoughts on Detroit, guys, before we move on to the main event?
Sorry. I just wanted to touch on one quick thing here. With Detroit, I am also of the mindset. I despite the fact that I thought Heavy Rain was flawed, nobody makes games like David Cage. Do I think that they're always the best games? No. But I think he's exploring a space of games like that kind of really artistic pseudo movie space, like an interactive movie that I think is consistently getting easier to control, easier to navigate, and better to make you feel like you're completely immersed in the experience. I think with obviously the way VR is going, I think that space of the game, the more it expands, eventually is going to create an experience that's going to change everyone's lives. I think that you're like a new movie experience where you're like a lot of people have pitched the idea of like picture a big scale movie in VR, but you don't view it from the seat. You're there. So think of a battle in Avengers. You're in the freaking coffee stand watching them fight. Like I think that there is a push to go just to make a 2 hour, 3 hour, or even longer, like 6 hour, like whole experience that is in the narrative way, and I think David Cage is exploring that space, and I think it's awesome that we live in an industry where there's enough people, or we live in a world where this industry and there's enough people that support his work, even though it's not always amazing. Like from a control perspective, he's
trying to make a thing happen.
Exactly. And I think one day, maybe 10, 20 years, I don't know how long it'll take down the road, we'll be sitting here going, oh my God.
We're going to play it on our deathbeds.
And I think we'll even say people like that paved the way for this to happen. You've got to make mistakes through discovering something before I think you can finally hit that nail. So,
all right. So Chris, last game. I know you want to.
Yeah. So let's get into the game I will probably have to buy as soon as it comes out. And I know I'm probably not the only one in this conversation. It will be
the best game of show for Sony. That from my opinion, should have closed, even though we already knew about it.
Yeah, I mean, this was the main event all along, I think, and that is
give me another 10-minute demo as far as I'm concerned.
This is, of course, the new Vita exclusive. I mean, the new God of War.
That game can't play. I love the Vita. No chance in hell would that game play on the Vita.
No.
God of War.
Kratos hanging out with his child friend who's like, he's a friend from work.
I have briefly played God of War 3, I want to say it was. Yeah. And this doesn't look anything like it. And I'm really happy it doesn't look anything like it. So I was not a fan of
I'm not a God of War fan. God of War was the action. Like, I actually wasn't. You guys were talking about earlier, Kyle, about your narrative of like PS2 to 360 to PS4. I was PS1 to Xbox to nothing. Dabbled in PS2 at friends' houses and stuff, to PS3 to 360.
You missed out, my friend.
So I didn't know Ratchet and Clank really, no Jack and Daxter, and no early levels God of War. I didn't. My sister eventually got PS3 and got remastered, and I saw awesome God of War. But it was like, this is just the action. Like, to me, this was like, oh, this is Prince of Persia. This is basically the same. Like, it's this action platform. God of War kind of had a little more.
I actually never played any God of War games,
but it was very like. The camera controls weren't great. There was a lot of stuff about it that just never sold me. And totally, it just didn't work for me. I was like, okay, so he's fighting all the gods, and I get the scale, but it was presented very cartoony to me in a way, or like stylized that
it took
itself didn't feel seriously. To me, it did, but the art style didn't. The art style took itself a little too
clashed. Yeah,
twisted metally in a way that it was just like it's edgy. Whereas this one presents itself just like you're in like Skyrim almost. Like it's all just like. It's grandiose in a very rugged, rustic way, and I'm like, yes, it feels lived in a way.
They very much present Kratos in previous God of Wars, and I've read this before. They present him as almost very unlikable.
Yeah, Kratos is a dish.
Yeah,
like if I remember correctly, one of the God of War games Chris opens, like the opening scene is a mini game of you banging your wife. That's what they're going for. They're going for Kratos is this like the whole story of. I don't know.
His wife dies at the very start of the first one.
Yes, but you're not your wife. You're like some whore, I think, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he didn't even have a kid at the time. Yeah.
No, he kills Helios, and he uses his head as a lantern. Like that's
the whole plot of the game is like he's all angry, Chris, and he wants to kill the gods, the Greek gods. He wants to murder them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he wants to do. He wants to kill Ares and become the God of War, and then murk everyone else. He's just like, screw you all. It's basically
Very
freaking.
unlikable. Yeah, that's the least.
Yeah, it's basically Crank. It's literally like this big dickhead that's just like, I'm angry and I'm coming for you.
Well,
I want revenge.
In this, they present him almost like, someone who's a little wiser, a little older, and someone who might be quite a lot more likable. It's a little more.
I got that impression as well.
I think it's supposed to be the same Kratos, though. Like, I think it's supposed to be through all that old age. The dumb bro dude Kratos was like, shit. I learned some
He's mellowed out
things.
a bit. Yeah.
Well, they did read that it basically said that it wasn't in response to people complaining about Kratos, but that there was quite a change with the old age and all that, and that he's very much someone who thinks a lot differently than the old Kratos. So while he is the same Kratos, he is in a lot of ways incredibly different.
Yeah, and also they did the smart thing, right? Where you take somebody who's like gruff and sort of unlovable, and then you pair them with a child, and then they're great, like Joel from The Last of Us. Although Joel's actually a very likable character, but he presents himself to be kind of a dick at the start. Although they do a really good job of like, you can sympathize because of that whole first section with his daughter. So it's like nobody's mad at him for being a dick when he doesn't like Ellie right away. But Kratos obviously had 3 games of being an asshole, and now he's got like this kid with him.
The big change for me that makes God of War the most appealing, other than the tonal change, which I think looks awesome, like different camera perspective. It's obviously a slower paced action game. There seems to be still some quick time events and things. Like, obviously it's a modern video game, there'll be some of that stuff, but the old God of Wars were really fast paced. They were like button mashy. Even you would like squish. This seems to be more Dark Souls-y, where it's like slower animations, but your hits seem to have more weight to them. It's not just a quick spin; it's like a throw of the axe, and it's things like that. By the way, his axe basically just has Thor powers, right? Or am I?
Well, he did. He was pull. I saw him throw the axe away, and I was like, "That was really stupid of him." And then he like pulls it back, and I'm like,
What if you kill Thor, and that's an upgrade for the axe? His freaking hammer powers.
Wasn't it the trailer that it didn't actually work, and he couldn't actually bring it back?
At the start, when he was like on the boat,
and so it almost implies that his old age, he's starting to lose some of.
Oh my god!
Maybe I don't think that was a weapon he could do that with in the past, though, Chris. Like, that's a completely new way. He was never able to do that.
Like I said,
they're really leaning into this Nordic. Like, for those who don't know, that they're switching tone from the Greek to the Nordic gods here. So it seems like it takes place in the same universe because
he's run out of Greek gods to kill.
With this mythology, the idea is that all these gods kind of exist anyway, in different universes or whatever have you. And Nordic has pretty much, for those who are unfamiliar, if you think Marvel, like all that universe with the Asgardians, that's literally Nordic mythology. So Odin, Loki, Thor, Ares. There's a Greek. Sorry, there's a water god. There's a woman.
Heimdall,
a bunch of women gods. Exactly. There's Heimdall. Exactly. There's lots of them. It's ogres. It's trolls. The scale is a lot bigger. There's a lot of big shit. I mean, to be fair, there was a lot of big shit in Greek too, but Greek's more like Hercules themed. But they do have some parallels. But it seems like they're leaning into that heavy, like Nordic Viking. Like, there was one shot where it's like this old Viking like temple or something, and there was like a giant Thor style hammer just sitting outside. It was like huge. It was like a statue, and like you just see him approaching it, and it's like in the snow and stuff. And you're like, okay, you're definitely going for like God of War didn't look like that at all, Chris. Like before, it was like fires and bricks and snakes and Medusas and stuff. Like it was.
Yeah, this reminded me a lot of really good modern open world games in terms of, but like in its own to it too. I won't lie, I played Horizon Zero. Like, I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and the guy who's I don't know if either you've seen any of the gameplay, but he looks just like Kratos, and I keep thinking that.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean,
he does. I played a little bit of it.
Okay, I haven't played it yet. No.
Also, we would be neglect to mention there's going to be some Horizon DLC out later this year. It's in the snow now.
Oh yeah. That was cool.
My fiance is really excited about that.
I keep getting excited. I want to play Horizon. When it goes on sale again, I will be buying it, and I will be playing the hell out of it.
It is so fucking good.
Oh, it looks great. That DLC looked great too.
Yeah.
Oh, did they show? Oh no, that was at the Microsoft conference, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan.
Sorry.
Don't speak out of turn.
What? I'm trying to remember what else. Have we basically covered everything?
Yeah, we basically covered everything from Sony.
Pretty sure it was.
Oh. I think
maybe stuff.
He's back.
Down.
Oh,
Chris, you kind of just janked out and came back in.
So yeah.
I didn't hear anything.
What did you say? We didn't hear what you said. That's all.
That's weird.
Yeah. So what did you say?
I think that's pretty much it. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we're starting to lose Chris, but I'm pretty sure I heard the words. That's pretty much it. So
with Sony, yeah. Overall, I thought Sony's conference was fine. It wasn't like bad by any means. Spider-Man was a weird thing to end on. They had enough stuff in there. Like there was stuff that was interesting and stuff that I was like, I want to play. You know, they had enough stuff that's like, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this. There was a lot of third-party stuff. They did some first-party stuff that looked pretty good. I don't know how much I'm going to play the new Uncharted with the two girls. I'm playing through Uncharted 4 right now, and I'm really digging it. But I'm kind of starting to get Uncharted out. Like I get it. It's kind of the same thing you happen with Call of Duty. I get it. These are treasure hunters. We're doing Indiana Jones. You're not putting any more twist on it anymore. It's like, come on, like we get it. Like you need to put a twist on it. Make them travel through time and make them treasure hunters through different dimensions or something. I need to see different things.
Well, I found that especially that Uncharted 4 did a really good job of wrapping it. Like you haven't seen the end yet, but like you've seen the beginning parts where like, you know, Drake's like out of it and he kind of yearns for adventure, but he's really happy with his life. And then he gets pulled back into it when he doesn't really want to because of his love for his brother. He thought has been dead for years. But then like it's very done at the end. Like he's just like, I'm out. Like the story of Nathan, I'm ready for that series to be put to bed.
We were talking about this with like the Call of Duty with just like, yeah, they're presenting military. Well, they got to a point where they presented military in pretty much every era, future, modern, past. We've seen it. We've seen military. I feel like Uncharted's kind of one of those games where it's like, it started out where it was like, oh, we're just kind of showing jungles and stuff. And then number 2 is like, we're showing snow and all this other crazy, and trains and moving things. And then number 3 was like, we're showing oceans and deserts. And at a certain point, you're just like, you've shown me the world. It's Assassin's Creed's getting to this point too. You've shown me the world. You need to do more. It
feels like some TV shows, right? Where like it's just like nowhere to end it, nowhere to just dragging it along and making it so you can keep making some money. Just a good time to end it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'll just quickly touch your pal. Despite the fact that it's dragging along to keep making money, and they've shown you different parts of this world. Anyway, there's still better ways to handle that. I mean, not to just to bring it up, I feel like that's exactly what Marvel does, doesn't it? That's the whole point of doing universe in scale, not just a world, because then you can go anywhere. So then it's like, let's completely change the tone. Sure, you can.
Space. Fuck it. Guardians.
Yeah, exactly. Like Uncharted space, I'll do Uncharted on a new planet. I'll do that. Show me that. Uncharted Mars. Like I'm down for that. But I've seen Earth. I've seen every snowy mountain and every desert. Anyway, PlayStation Vita, ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation